so thank you, Gus, for kindly putting the agenda up. So as we have the agenda, is there any questions on that agenda? None? Okay, so at this time we'll go ahead and move on to hear the public. So anybody who wishes to address the board on non-agenda items, you may do so at this time. Please make sure to introduce yourself. And the rules for addressing the board are on the back of tonight's agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Once, twice, 3 times, okay. Go ahead and get going on to reports then. So first up is our student report. So, yeah, Lee?
Brooke's gonna take it away with our student report this month. In future months, she may be bringing in other students to introduce, to either talk to the board or talk about their accomplishments. But this month, I thought we'd just hear from Brooke about how things are going.
Okay, so I was asked to talk about like just what's going on, like day-to-day life going on in East Helena. So I have that here. So as the beginning of the school year started, many students are starting to settle in and getting to know each other. So learning more about daily activities, as many seniors and upperclassmen don't go to a full schedule. A lot of them just have to go to half days, as a lot of seniors don't have to take a full schedule. They just have to take 5 class periods, or a lot of them actually take Helena College classes. So they get to take classes through Helena College, and they actually they don't have to stay at the high school for that. They can go home and take those classes, or they can stay here for that. Or we have a thing called a work study, where they can, they can go to work through like through the high school. They can go to work instead of having to go to class. The freshmen and the sophomores, they are more than likely to go through a full day of school. Link Crew, Student Council, and NHS and other clubs have hit the ground running. Fall sports are in full swing, as a lot of them have already started their season. Football got a huge win over Hardin last Friday night. Volleyball has hosted 2 tournaments this past weekend. Soccer hosted a couple games, and golf has had a couple, I don't even know what those are called, tournaments maybe?
It works for us.
Yeah. Flag football has hosted a jamboree, and then they had a game in St. Ignatius 2 weekends ago. And esports has also started, I believe so, or they have started talking about started. Student sections is another thing to encourage students that we need to encourage students to go to, as like football has been full, but like soccer you need to be encouraged to, and also as volleyball games have, as they've started to take full, that we need to encourage students to go to. And then I just want to say that I'm going to have a meeting on September 23rd to hear students' opinions on like what's going on in the high school, like their opinions about what's going on, and to see like what they think is going on and what they think that needs to be bring to a board is appropriate to bring to the board, and their opinions. So that's what I have this month.
Great. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to administrator reports. So just go ahead and go down the line. So Brandon.
All right, good evening. My report is in your packet. I do have one additional thing to share. Before I do, I would like to introduce some new staff. 2 of my folks could not be here. Alicia Menius is joining us as a tutor. She student taught at Riley last year. Lots of fabulous things to say about her from the Riley staff. And it's nice because those things have definitely carried over to Prickly Pear. And then Kayla Combs is one of our new pairs over at Prickly Pear as well. One person who is present is Mr. Eric over there. And even though he is not completely new to our district, his position is vastly different than what he was doing last year. And his positive energy has been completely infectious at Eastgate, so we're really excited to have him heading one of our Little Lansing early pre-K classes. The additional thing that I would like to share, just from a district curriculum standpoint, this year's rotation for looking at curriculum will be our English language arts crew, and so that's going to be K-12. So just to review, a few years ago we did just K-5 just because our curriculum had sunsetted, but we're back to our K-12, so throughout the year I'll be updating the board on that process. Any questions?
Anyone from the board?
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. I don't know if you heard me say to guess, but I just survived my first all-day indoor recess with 4-year-olds. About 1:30, I was very close to tears, but I decided to keep saying, this is what you wanted, this is what you wanted. So, yeah, but I'm really enjoying being part of the staff over there. Although I miss my Radley peeps too. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. Bill?
We wanted to make an entrance.
Yeah. Yes, you have, yes. Russ?
All right, you folks have my report in your packet. The one thing that I just wanted to expand upon that's already in my board report is the lucky situation that we find ourselves out at recess, where we were able to add a lot more games and equipment out to our playground. Having those opportunities is always great, but then you want to see it put into action. I've been spending a lot of time out in the playground, and we're still early, but recess is far more enjoyable for the kids as well as for the adults. Kids have things to do to actively and safely participate in things out at recess, and it's been really cool to see the first 2 weeks, then put into action, less misbehaviors. Like I said, very early, but still, it's been pretty cool to see. It's been enjoyable, and I'm glad it's worked out thus far.
You still have the metal slide?
We still have the metal slide.
Keep that, we gotta go.
I know. Yeah. It's a little hot right now,
Yeah,
but
that thing burns legs.
Brooke remembers.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Any,
So I'm assuming on your discipline report that September isn't accurate?
That was last year's.
Okay.
Yep.
I was hoping that was the case.
Yep. I had zeros actually for
Okay,
your
awesome.
board report. Yep. I forgot to update it.
No worries. Thanks.
Bill? Okay, Lindsay?
So you guys have everything in my board report. I just wanted to add that sports are up and going, and you might have heard that UVMS volleyball did not have any girls this year. We are going to keep all the girls, and we're going to grade check and effort and keep all of that in mind, and kids can work their way up. And we'll have a combination team playing bigger schools like Butte so that they get a chance to be in the action as well. And other than that, I'd like to introduce Alexis Cooney. She is our social studies teacher for 7th. And then Caleb Wallace, he is our ELA teacher for 8th grade. And this is 2 out of our 6. So, and we love them all. It's been a great school year.
All right, Mark?
Yeah, just kind of adding on to Lindsay's report. I feel like, you know, this is only my 3rd year, but it's been the smoothest start by far for us, and that just kind of goes back just to the efforts of our staff as well. Last thing I was just going to mention, you have the discipline report here, and I'm just taking a page out of the man, the myth, the legend, Dwayne Schlabaugh's playbook. He gave me this form just because I wanted to start doing those visuals for you guys this year, so I'll play with a little bit more, but just starting to get a little more graphing and visuals for you guys to look at and the behaviors. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the middle school for Lindsay or Gus, or Mike?
How'd the cell phone stuff roll out?
Yeah, it's going. It's a learning curve for sure for everybody. No, like, yeah, right away in August we had 2 infractions. I'm just pulling them in and letting them know that, making sure that they understand the new format of the cell phone policy of it's, you know, 1 warning, it's on teacher's desk, 2nd one, you're turning it into the office when you show up for the rest of the trimester. So, and it's been really receptive. I mean, students understand. Yeah, knock on wood, I haven't had a lot of pushback at all. So.
And teachers are liking it, I'm assuming?
They're what?
The teachers are liking it, I'm assuming?
Yes. Yes.
When we sent it out, I had 48 emails, and all of them were thanking us. One was curious about if all the teachers could get hold of us if there's emergency, and I reassured her, and she was like, great, take them away.
Yeah, I've only called 2 kids all year so far. I mean, 3 weeks, all year, big quotes. But I've only taught 2 kids this year actually on them in class, and I mean, they knew, put it on my desk, it's gone, you get it for the rest of the day. There was no argument about it. I mean, it's catch and release.
It's a good point. They're adapting well.
Good.
Here.
I have a question. How's the 227 heading?
We have
It's an agenda item
It
later.
is like, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I don't know.
Hey, sorry, we don't want to steal our thunder.
Never
from-
mind. I take
Good
that.
question. Very perceptive.
Okay, any other questions for the middle school? All right, Paul?
Well, good evening, everyone. How's it all going? Oh, good. You got my report in the packet somewhere. Just a couple of things, I guess. We're kind of bursting the seams here a little bit in some subject areas. We have over 640 students. That includes about 40 or 50 in 227 Academy. In terms of our core subjects, we are looking at probably an average of 30 students in each class. In our sort of optional subjects, the electives, they're pretty full, and we've had a lot of trouble with sort of getting people around. Of course, in the electives, we don't have as many people in some of those areas because you can't have as many people. For instance, in welding, I think it would take 12 in some classes. And even Trinity, who I'm going to introduce here in a second, in consumer sciences, she's got over 20 students in, I think, at least 2 classes, which is a lot of people to have in that kind of area. Business, same again. We've only one business teacher, so her classes are pretty much full. So anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. I think 4 out of the 8 study halls are over 30 students as well. In PE, there's probably at least half the classes are over 30 students. Some are over 35. But everyone's handling it okay. Haven't had too many complaints so far, but it is a bit of a stretch. Anyway, just throwing that out there, it's around about 30 on average, especially in the core areas. And anyway, over here, I've got Trinity Nelson, who's our consumer science teacher. She's the one with a couple of kind of big classes, doing really good from what I'm seeing so far. And yeah, that's about it. We've got another 3 teachers in the school that are new. We have, none up here obviously. 2 of the teachers have actually come from the junior high. So we've taken 2 junior high teachers who were in high school for the first time, as well as a new teacher who's not here tonight. Thank you.
Questions for Paul?
Can I ask a question for Dan regarding Paul's? Sorry, I'm full of questions tonight. With the large class sizes, how does that fit with our standard, with our strategic planning?
It's over it right now. Yeah.
Over the standard also?
Yeah, because the strategic plan has a goal of 2 below state standard, which would be 28. So we've got a lot of sections that are at or above that.
Okay.
So as we monitor that as the year goes on, we are going to have some tough decisions to make next spring when we look at non-resident requests. My hunch is that we'll be not having a lot of room for new faces in the high school. One thing that I'm kind of hoping that we don't see it this year, but maybe it's a little bit of a high school trend and thing too, is that if you look at last year's board agendas from September to May, that high school enrollment dropped. So there may be room opening up that way, but that wouldn't necessarily be a great thing either. So we're definitely going to have to keep a handle on it, and it's either going to mean more staff or less kids. And so it's an issue. Yeah.
Any other questions for Paul? Okay, Trish.
All right, so first I want to introduce Teach Ellison. He is an administrative intern, so he is getting a degree to be an administrator, and he was supposed to work with me as an elementary placement, and then I moved, and so he got to stay with me and do his high school hours with me here at the high school. Got to watch some games last week. It was a great game for him to watch, and just be here to help support admin team here at the high school. So welcome to Teach. You have my report in your packet. The biggest thing I want to focus on is we've really started strong with our teaching staff. We divided up the handbook, and each teacher covered a section of the handbook per class period with our students, projected the handbook, discussed it with them, went through everything that we asked them to go through, and it really helped us get off on a really positive note. We've had a few office referrals since I sent in this report, but nothing incredibly major. We also have had a huge emphasis on the positivity for our students and recognizing our students who are following our expectations. From everything I've seen from data, it's 3% of the kids that are causing 95% of the issues. So we really want to focus on our students that are doing what we're asking them to do. So we've increased the Vigilante Star Awards. I've already received 17 small Vigilante Star Awards. And then we also had our first big Vigilante Star Award that was handed out. So lots of really focusing on what kids are doing well and recognizing them for those things. Half the kids really, I don't even know what this is. So we've really got to just amp up the information around it and the excitement around it. We make a big deal about it and they come in with Vigilante Star. And at the bottom there, yes, we do have base detectors in the bathrooms, and yes, they work.
Questions? Stacy? You're on track record tonight.
I'm okay with this.
Way to put her on the spot.
Well, gotta have a little fun. Okay, all right, moving on, Sean.
All right, so you have my board report. Since Brooke did such a good job, I think she just read my report, but I don't think I really need to show up to these anymore, so I appreciate you, Brooke. My AD newsletter link, that's live on your guys' page. I updated it this weekend, so we have a new one for September. I'll try and do one before every board meeting, so we have at least 8 or 9 of those every year. A couple things, like she said, we posted a lot of volleyball. We had a lot of activity going this past week. We had 3 football games. What that entails is, at least with JV, at least 1 ticket taker, varsity, 3 ticket takers, and we bring in 5 officials. We'll have a clock operator for our varsity games, announcer, video board. Soccer, same thing, we have 3 officials, clock operator, video board, announcer. Nobody took those jobs, so I got all 3 of those for the soccer games this weekend. Well, actually for the Saturday one, Mason did help me on the other one. We did volleyball. We had 2 weekends in a row. This weekend we had 12 teams come in, including ourselves. So we ran 36 games in 2 days. We had 2 courts going in the gym. They brought in 6 officials, so we have 2 officials for each court, and then you have 2 resting every game. So we have quite a bit of activity. We had a ticket taker and then 2 clock operators for that weekend. Then we assigned workers out of the schools that visit. If we're home with the usual clock operator and a video board operator and announcer. And we did host flag football this weekend. We had 4 games. That's 4 officials, clock operator, announcer, video board, for sponsorships. Brian Feathers, our Booster Club president, ran he was our announcer for our last game on Saturday night. He did a great job. Jason Walker came in and did a live broadcast and then he recorded it, and so people can view that off of his podcast. And that was 4 officials, and we had Mr. Bodecker, who was our down and distance guy. And then another thing is, so we joined that co-op in softball with Boulder 2 years ago. This is our year 3, and you're supposed to usually re-up every 3 years. And they passed new legislation in MHSA where we combine enrollments between the 2 schools. And if you go over the next class, you're supposed to bump up to the next class, which would, after this year, would put us going into Class AA for softball. MHSA changed their rules. They grandfathered everybody in that had co-ops, so we don't have to fill out paperwork for them. We just have to do it between 2 schools. And so today in their executive board meeting, I asked if they just grandfather us in and keep us in Class A if we stay co-op with Boulder, and they said that's fine. So that's a plus for us. We don't have to worry about bumping up in Class AA for softball. So I thought that was pretty nice to know. But any questions?
Yes.
All right.
Did we get our hands on another trainer?
Oh, that's a great thing. I'm glad you brought that up. We are currently working on that. So we brought in a sub-trainer who was very nice. It said they'd worked for a couple weeks. I'm going to set a meeting with HOC to see where we're at, because they're trying to find us one and see where they're at. And we'd love to find us a full-time certified trainer. That's our goal.
Is there a requirement on our side to supply that for our athletics?
To have a trainer?
Yes, on hand.
There's none that I know of, like in MHSA regulations.
Yeah.
Can't imagine a school our size that doesn't have one. And every trainer we've had for the last 3 years, we've kept super busy. So the concern that I guess we have is when we open the high school, we contract with Helen Orthopedic Clinic to provide athletic training services. The advantage for us was that this football practice is getting out and it's indoor because of the smoke. Was that it gave us a lot of flexibility in terms of FTE, and to where even if we had periods of the year where we needed 2 people, they would staff it for us. Now what happened, since we've started, they've always kept us in a position where we have a trainer on site available for all athletics and activities. And then the trainer that we had last year left in the spring, took a job out of state, right?
In North Carolina.
Yeah, a little bit out of state. And then,
Quite a ways.
and they haven't been able to hire anybody to replace him. And that's the contract that we just renewed with them in June. And so if this gets too much more prolonged, we're gonna have to go back to our contract and see if we've got an escape clause in there, if they're not able to staff it, so that we can look at going another direction. Like Sean pointed out, Jen Loomis is helping us out. I think she told him 2 weeks. I think she's been working 3 weeks already. And Sean kind of told her, well, 2 weeks or till Thanksgiving, we'll see how it goes. Because Helen Orthopedic Clinic was not having any luck. So this was an experiment. It's what a lot of colleges and universities are doing for their athletic training. It takes us out of the business of having to hire a medical professional. But I'm just not sure how it's going to work out or if it's going to work out. And so we're monitoring that situation right now, trying to.
If you know of
chart a path.
anybody, send them
Yeah,
our
if you
way.
know of anybody.
Well, I'm just curious about like a class, creating an elective to where you have your managers with the sports teams that take that training class and then they're kind of up to speed on taping and
So
different things.
the deal with taping, my understanding and knowledge of it is there's a liability associated with taping kids anymore. So, and it's injury liability. So when, like even a lot of coaches and a lot of schools don't want their coaches taping kids because if we tape a kid and they go out and compete and get injured, then the concern is we're responsible at least partly for that. So through our contract with Helen Orthopedic Clinic, they bear the burden of that, or at least part of it. And so we've got a little bit of a learning curve on that front. But it's not, like when I was in school, the gym teacher taped you, and it was no big deal. And we don't really do much of that anymore, just because it's the same old story. It's those dang attorneys that cost everybody so much money. Not pointing any fingers, Mark. So that's kind of part of that issue too. But
I think they've been doing it like trainer did.
right, it's a huge part of it. They do all our concussion protocol, which is another big liability issue in schools now. I don't know. The job is just, it's turned into something bigger than what it used to be when definitely when I was a kid. And we're optimistic that Helen Orthopedic Clinic is still going to find somebody. They're committed to hiring a full-time person. But like I said, they just haven't had much luck the last few weeks. So.
Sure.
But if they do, it works well because
Yeah.
it's flex, basically.
It is, and then we're not responsible for that person during off-season or summer hours. And then it gives us a lot more flexibility. And if there are times like, for instance, this weekend, we probably could have used 2 people out here, and we could have talked with them about staffing it that way. So.
They actually sent another trainer for our football game Friday
Yeah.
that they have that's part-time to them.
Okay. And then, I don't want to get too into discussion on it, but I'm just curious, like with the whole concession stuff, is that another thing that's just kind of a staffing issue on school ends? Is it
Yeah, so the person who used to do it doesn't work here anymore.
Mhm.
And so we started advertising midsummer in-house because it's usually been a staff member, it's a stipend
Right.
position.
Okay.
And it works It absolutely works best if it's a high school teacher, mostly because you gotta coordinate with events and activities with the office, you gotta count the cash box, turn in the money, do the deposits, train your next group of kids that's gonna be working in the concession stand. But at this point, we'd be interested in just about anybody. So we didn't have a chance to talk about it too much today, but we'll probably just post it on the public side of our webpage instead of the in-house side this week, unless we get some interest, which I know a couple people talked to you over the weekend, but I don't know if they've submitted.
Lenore Vale.
Lenore Vale. Was it Dante?
What's that?
Was it Dante? Oh, he talked to me, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, good question.
Anything else, Sean?
I think I covered and Brooke covered.
Do you know,
So,
I was gonna ask you, do you know how many schools are here for volleyball?
I said 12.
12.
Yeah.
And there were 4 for flag football.
4 for flag football. We played 2 soccer games this week.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of the epicenter of Class A sports this weekend. I mean, if you were here Friday afternoon, it was
Here
crazy.
Friday and
And there were-
Saturday, you saw a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there were kids doing stuff all over the place and buses coming and going. It was busy and a little wild, but it was also super fun. And then to cap it off with the football victory Friday night was super fun. And then I was just disappointed that when I got home and watched the news that we got 0 coverage on the TV station for any sports, not even just football. And then they covered the Lockwood Lewistown game on the local news. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And so anyway, I did ask them to pay a little closer attention to us.
All right, well, that looks like it'll do it for admin reports. Next up is trustee and committee reports. I don't believe we had any committees meet over the last month.
We have not. Policy committee and Terrell and Stacy, I heard from you guys, you have an email from me in your inbox.
Oh, yeah, I do, okay.
You don't have to deal with it right now, but about potential meeting dates for policy committee.
Okay.
And then Terrell, we're gonna form a temporary strategic planning committee tonight. That's right. And Scott wants to be on it. We can nominate Marcia since she's not here.
Wow. I got him.
Yeah, I know you did, Mark. Is anybody interested in that? The strategic planning just has a couple things they have to look at, and when I talked to Scott about it, he felt it might be better if a small group looks at it, comes up with some potential model language to bring to the full board. So if anybody is interested in that, you could volunteer now, or email Scott or me, or we'll start asking.
You want more board members?
Yeah, it's gotta be
I'm
board
not on
members.
the board, so I'll do it.
Tristan? Yeah. And actually, Marcia might be interested, so do you want me, you guys mind if I ask her first, unless there's somebody here who wants to do it? All right, I'll ask Marcia.
Yeah, the intent there is to look at some of the language that was agreed to during bargaining.
Yep.
So. Okay, let's see, cover strategic planning. Okay, so notifications, retirements, and resignations.
I have none.
None? Oh, that's good news. All right.
I thought about it today.
I'm glad you're here.
I would have rejected that one.
Okay, so moving on, next is our consent action items. Typically, there's no debate unless any member of the board wishes to pull meeting minutes of either August 12th, August 15th, and warrants and personnel actions.
I have one question,
What's it on?
the consent, the warrants.
Should we pull those then?
Is it simple or complex?
It's a simple question.
It's up to you.
I just want to know what the Google bus repair is.
Oh, that was the end.
That was the engine rebuild.
Is Google involved in our buses?
No, we bought the bus from, the bus was Google's bus at one time.
It says Google on the seats.
Yeah, all the seats are embroidered with Google, and all the lights inside are.
I have that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to know what it was.
So we call it the Google bus. all the time.
Huh?
Is it before or after it went to the same conclusions?
Oh, that was been done, it's been repaired for what, a couple months now?
Yes.
The invoice didn't hit
Is that on
until.
it?
So Sean, was there a problem with the Google Bus at St. Ignatius coming over the pass?
Is there a problem with Google Bus?
Yeah. No?
I
Okay.
was looking at today, they're all
All right.
running.
Okay.
Well, we've got our consent action items, so I guess at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to accept consent action items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mark, and seconded by Stacy. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. And moving on, so as Tristan asked earlier, update on our 227 Academy.
Yeah, so this has been experience, actually it was a year ago that we decided to apply for the charter school and had no idea really what we were getting ourselves into. We were encouraged to apply by the School Boards Association and decided to pursue it because we felt like we had a need in the area of alternative schooling or alternative approaches to schooling for kids who might need a different approach or opportunity. And we called it the 227 Academy. We didn't know if it would be approved. It got approved, and then there were all kinds of growing pains along the way. But we did manage to garner the enrollment that we felt like we needed and that we projected in our application, and got kids started in the past week in the 227 Academy. And so I've asked Lindsay and Trish to kind of report a little bit to the board from a more boots on the ground perspective of what's going on there at the middle school and high school with 227. Lindsay,
So when I started the enrollment for 612, a lot of parents were like, sweet, what's this? And they just signed up their kids. And so at the beginning, we had a lot of shuffling with high school parents calling and middle school parents calling because they were like, wait, do I want this? Do I not? So at the end of all the shuffling, EVMS ended up with 22 kids. We need 23, but I have 3 that want in. So we are doing awesome. We have teachers coming in to do activities in the room. I have 3 students on either taking a class online or completely online. I have a 8th grader who is taking, she got to take anything she wanted, any elective, and she took philosophy, and I was like, but I didn't think that. And I was like, are you sure? And so she is rocking it and loving it. And it's a 9th grade class, so she'll have that credit for next year. They're loving it back there. Last week, they focused on getting to know each other and becoming a community because they just started on Tuesday, and today was like full steam ahead, and they were in class working, and they're doing small groups to get everybody, high kids, because we have a large group of high kids getting where they're going, and the students that just need a little support are also wrapped around. So my teacher in there, Mr. Yackley, he's amazing. And my paraprofessional back there, if I could clone her, she is phenomenal. So I'm super excited, and the more kids get to hear about it, then some are coming and being like, can I please come? And I'm like, well, you have to get your attendance up and all of these things. That it's been a great initiative for us because I'm trying to sell it as this is a gift, and it's not an alt program for us really. We're trying to wrap around with kids that aren't going to disturb it, but also pushing the super high kids ahead.
So I guess, can I ask a question about it? So how does it fit? I guess I wasn't sure, I don't understand quite how the EVMS model fits with the model I thought it was supposed to be, which is
So
fine.
it's both. So we do have students that need more need than other students.
More what?
Like need and wrap around. So like in all.
There's too much jingoistic, I don't know what wraparound is.
So like more of like
Extra
kids
help.
with
Okay, I mean, not to
that need to be in there, that the regular classroom setting is not a great fit for them. So we
Okay.
can have a lot of students like that.
Gotcha, and some that are just partaking other opportunities.
Yep.
Tell me, how does it really, I heard a lot about how you can't go through that hallway anymore, is that true?
So true.
Why?
So in the morning, they walk around, but our kids don't switch classes in the 227. So in between classes, instead of disturbing the whole class, they still, when I'm kidding you, they get to walk a whole U now. They even have like a routine. They just walk a horseshoe now during regular class times when they switch that EVMS.
So, but you can't cross through there?
No, only in the morning.
Wow. It's caused a lot of anxiety.
I didn't know how it was gonna work either.
Not well is what I hear. No, I'm just kidding. The hallway's the big thing. Like, I was like, what are they doing back there? They're like, we don't know.
Yeah, it became a pattern because Miss Murphy stood in the hallway, now they circle around her. So they understand like how you should merge in traffic.
You do what you gotta do, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so as far as the high school, we have, if you count full students, or just count each kid as a student that's in there, we have over 50 kids in there, but of course it's kind of a little bit different enrollment because you've got some kids that are taking electives through the high school and then they're taking classes through the 227. So we have more than enough enrollment for our 227. It was a chore to retrain some of our students who were part of the alt program last year, that this is now the 227 and here are the expectations. We had great family meetings with every single one of our students and their families, signed agreements. The kids are absolutely rocking it down there. Love the environment. We also have probably the most rock star staff I've ever seen working in the 227. We have Nicole Hash for math, Shelby Holmes for science, John Moore for English, and then Andrew Bodecker for social studies. And then Alex Reed is down there all day as an instructional tutor. So our students move through there pretty fluidly and do really great work when they're down there. They've got a routine, they've got everything set up. We are very fortunate we have students that are taking a lot of Helena College credits, MTDA credits, and then Ingenuity classes as well. So we have 3 different systems that are working. It was a little chaotic getting them scheduled in the very beginning, but now they've settled into a pattern and a routine, and it's really been great for our students. We have a couple students who are just trying to graduate early, and they are flying through their English and government work.
So your core classes, they're shifting time between 227 and then regular?
No, just the core classes are with the 227 teachers down there. It's elective classes that a lot of them are coming out for.
So is that where our numbers have gone up in our other classes, is because of the shift from that?
I would say actually our numbers have gone down because they're actually in the 227 academy and they're not in the high school.
Okay.
So the electives are a little bit higher, but then also we just have fewer elective teachers. And so
Okay.
there's also that reason for the increase.
Okay.
So, good questions. That's just kind of what we wanted to let the board know. That I think one of the things that I at least had some heartburn about over the summer was if we were going to hit the enrollment numbers that we had projected that we were going to hit. I think the Board of Public Ed had an expectation that we would be in the ballpark, and we are. So that part of it is good. It's definitely, you've heard the expression, building this plane while we're flying it kind of thing, is how that part of it's been happening. The instructional staff has kind of come together in the last month and a half. They came in for a couple meetings in August to kind of get oriented and situated about the approach, concept, set expectations, and then, like Trish and Lindsay kind of alluded to, we took a little bit of a softer approach to the start of school in there, so we didn't start the first day on Wednesday with everybody. The teacher spent, did you do that at middle school too, where you had family meetings, so that the parents came in with the student, met with the teacher, discussed the scheduling, the approach, the expectations, and all that kind of stuff on those first 3 days of school, and then they actually started with their classes on the day after Labor Day. So it just gave us a little bit more time to feel like we were getting things off on a positive start. And overall, I mean, I think staff has really risen to the occasion, and it's been pretty exciting to watch, and I'm pretty interested to see where it takes us. I think there's going to be some pretty cool opportunities for kids to individualize and advance their education at their pace, especially for kids who are kind of driven or maybe don't function real well in a classroom setting. And I'm hopeful that we're also going to find an opportunity to support some of our students who might otherwise become disenfranchised with traditional school establishment and maybe seek opportunities elsewhere. Hopefully we can hold on to those kids and get them to graduate. So yeah.
This might, I don't know if this makes total sense, but I recognize some of those names, like, of teachers. So they were employed in the high school, for instance.
They are.
They are.
They teach a couple periods in the academy and the rest of their schedule in the high school.
So has that, I mean, but the 227 Academy was funded separately, to some extent.
It's part of the general fund, but we did get additional funding for it.
So has that, like, given any breathing room?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
It was not like a huge windfall of cash, but it did give us a little bit of flexibility to hire some additional staff. Yeah.
Good.
Cover.
Yeah, we're ready. Yeah.
Okay, moving on, item number 2 is the EPA rebate line bus delivery update. How is our electric bus doing?
I hope you guys are getting as tired of hearing about this as I am talking about it. No, it's, I think, good news, bad news, like usual. The bus is here, like I said. We did have 2 technicians from Lion on site last week. They swapped out all the seats in the bus from the wrong seats to the right seats that have the seat belts built in them, which is what we ordered. They took care of some other warranty issues while they were here. And then I think I talked with a couple of you guys about the issue that we were having where the bus won't charge, which is kind of a major issue with the electric bus. And so we plug it into the charger and it does everything it's supposed to do except actually charge. And so we messed with it, and I had tested the charger on a real electric car, and it did charge on that car. Not that I have an electric car, but the gentleman from the state that I'm working with has a real nice Volkswagen electric. And he brought his car out and plugged it in and it worked just fine. So we were pretty sure that our charger was ready to go, and then when the bus gets here, it won't charge it. So while the technicians were here, I told Nick, I said, you have those guys try and get this bus to charge, because if anybody should know how it should work, it should be them. And they took one look at it and told us that this wire is wired for direct current DC charging, and the charger that they sold us is an alternating current AC charger. So it uses way less power than a DC charge, and it charges at a slower pace. So in a lot of ways, DC charging is more desirable because you can charge the bus in 2 hours versus 6 hours, but we don't have the right charger. And the people who sold us the bus and built it are the same people who spec'd out the charger and sold us the charger. And so we're waiting to hear back from the factory what the fix is going to be for that. It's either going to be upgrade to a direct current charger and rapid charging, or it's going to be retrofit the bus to work as an AC charge, level 2 charge bus. And I haven't got an answer back on that yet today. So we're moving forward with it because I think this is, it's an issue, but it's not an insurmountable issue. And I'll keep you guys updated. In the meantime, and I think I've talked to a couple people on the board, but the whole issue with the EPA rebates is we're just kind of sitting on our hands with placing any new orders until we actually see an electric bus that works, runs, and drives the way it was advertised. So,
On to unhook the voting.
But it's sitting here, right?
yeah, it's in the bus barn. It looks really nice.
I feel like it's like chicken house or
Yeah,
cafe.
when the guys were working on it, they had the air conditioning running inside it, so they were nice and cool in there, but
Until the charger ran
until
out?
the batteries. It's like, hey, you guys, you're, but anyway, that's what's going on with the bus.
How was it advertised, sorry?
No.
Was it a higher charge or a lower charge that we purchased?
We purchased the slower charge,
Okay.
and which makes sense for school buses because they sit all night, every night, so you've got 8 hours to charge it, so why spend money on a rapid charging system? And then for whatever reason, and this is on us, when they sent us, so the original bus that we ordered, the one 2 years ago, was matched up with this charger. Well, then we went through 2 different other orders that got canceled and placed, and then we switched models. And I think when we switched models, they, on the invoice, the order sheet, or the build sheet for the bus with all our requests for add-ons and different things like seat belts and tire chains, it also said direct current charging on there. And when I ran that through our grant coordinator at DEQ, he didn't catch it, and then I signed it and sent it back. So that's the bus we ordered. But at the same time, their engineers should have known, based on everything else that was in our file, that the bus wasn't gonna work when it got here. So we gotta get it fixed one way or the other.
Is there any way that we can get Lion to kind of help us out with that? I mean,
Yeah.
come on, they're
Oh, yeah.
like, what, 2 years behind?
Yeah.
Isn't there some like,
Yeah, I don't think,
grease the skids a little bit
Yeah.
there, guys?
and I think they're working on it from their end. They
Okay.
asked for the phone number of our electrical contractor, so they can call him and talk with him about the electrical service at the bus barn and what that might support. So I think they're working it from that angle. The worst case scenario is if we have to downgrade it to level 2 charging, which is what we have in the bus barn. It means installing an inverter in the bus to invert the DC current to whatever it needs to match up to the battery in the bus. So that might be doable on site, is what we're hoping, so.
Questions?
Are those covered by the funds that have already been put into that?
This bus, well, the charger depends. So the first charger was paid for by the grant. But like what Terrell's saying is, this is partly on them that they sent us the wrong bus. So, and once we get down to talking about a fix, we'll be talking about who's gonna pay for the fix, so, yeah. And we haven't paid for the bus yet. It's been here for almost a month now, or a half, over.
Can you tow the bus backwards
And charge it up, kind of like the old cars? We can try that.
Any other
Put a
questions?
generator on the back of it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Hybrid.
Diesel electric. All right, so moving on, we'll go ahead and go to the enrollment report and start a school update.
Okay, so you had an enrollment count report in your supporting documents. I was supposed to bring an updated one with me tonight, and now I don't know what I did with it.
Over 2,000, that's.
Yeah, so the long and short of it, the numbers haven't changed. The allocation between the different schools has changed a little bit. Is that our fall enrollment count, as it sits today, is at 2,003. That is never 100% accurate in the first 2 weeks of school. And so we're waiting for those drops and adds to get settled in and see where we land. Regardless, we're over 100 students higher than we were counting at this time last year. And we're 7 kids, students higher than we ended the year with last year. Now that sounds like a lot, but keep in mind that we added 2 sections of early K at Eastgate, so that accounts for what, 33 kids? So actually, the increase was to a certain degree to be expected. Regardless, it's going to be either a moderate to semi-significant windfall for us in terms of preparing for next year, an A and B. If we can hold on to those numbers throughout the year and they don't drift down. So we'll be watching for that. And the only other thing that I wanted to say on this agenda item is that we have had a remarkably smooth start to the school year, especially given the fact that we technically opened a new school, the 6th through 8th grade 227 Academy, in 2 different sites this fall. And what I just asked the principals to do is be prepared to visit a little bit about how opening days went at their school. Brandon touched on a little bit, but do you have anything you want to add as far as how things are going at Eastgate in particular?
I mean, I would just echo what Mr. Kemper said. It's just been a relatively smooth start. And if you've had a kid at Prickly Pear and you've gone and used the first grade pickup line, you might not believe it when I say this, but it has been almost flawless for the first few weeks. I've been out there, it's been very smooth. I don't know what you attribute it to. Maybe it's just parents are reading through some of our emails and our routines. staff are familiar with things, but it's going really well.
How about you, Gus?
Yeah, it's really good. I'm kind of spoiled in the fact that I have a really veteran staff at Radley, and so it just kind of business as usual, and they just roll it out. And we've had just a couple hiccups with some new transfer kiddos that aren't familiar with the district, but still we've rolled with the punches, and it's been great.
And Gus's paperwork that he sent out to the parents was amazing, with pictures and arrows, and it was very clear.
Well, thank you.
I was like, wow.
So better than Brandon's?
That's what I heard.
In my defense, I don't have a kid at Prickly Pear this year, so I don't know.
It's okay. I understand.
Nice. How's it going in 5th grade? Because we did reduce a section in 5th grade. Is that...
Yeah, those numbers are pretty high. Right now, we're hitting that 28 mark, which is two students below the state accreditation standard, hitting our mark. We're right at that mark. And our numbers in the board pack are a little off for Radley. We're 433 students. So it's pretty evenly dispersed throughout the different grade levels for the new enrollments, but it's getting up there in 3rd and 5th grade. So more than we're accustomed to.
Let's see, Lindsay.
We're at 498 with our, all of our students, and we're down 9 sections with foods and stuff, so we are jam-packed. So we're looking at 29 or 30, average 29 or 30 in our electives right now, and then our class sizes are at 28.
It might be the biggest that building's ever been, except the year that we had 9th graders. Remember that? If
That
we
was
were at-
interesting.
we were at like 570. It was really packed, but yeah, that's a lot of students in that building. So.
Is your 598 counting 227?
Yes, the 498 is counting the 227.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had one year, Caleb, the first year of the high school where the 9th grade was in EBMS.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Fit everyone into
Yeah.
that building.
And we
While we were under construction.
We were very cozy. What were you in 7th grade?
Is that 6 years ago?
The principal was unbelievable that night.
Yeah, he was
just-
great.
he was just-
He was remarkable. Who was that guy? Yeah, so
Yeah.
Paul,
If
that
we had
thing
his
that
skill
I
now.
said I needed to tell you that I forgot what it was. Yeah. It was that I was gonna call on you to report about the opening of school. We ran into each other and I said, there's something I need to tell you and I can't remember what it is. Now, right now I'm remembering what it is. So is there anything that you would want to
Yeah,
add?
I mean, the school year started out pretty good. I mean, the scheduling obviously was nightmarish at the start of the year with the 227 program in particular. But Kelly and Ethan are just amazing. And in combination with talking to teachers and moving schedules around with people and moving teachers here and there and everywhere, yeah, it seems to all work out pretty good. A week and a half in, we're kind of settled. We're moving on. Can't complain.
And I think Paul and Trish have had a especially heavy lift when you're walking into a building where both the principal and vice principal have left the previous spring and you're handed a schedule that you didn't build. And you have to try to understand what somebody else was thinking when they created it and then try to make that work. And then of course we threw the charter school monkey wrench into all that. The only other two people who I've known had to do anything similar was Lindsay and Michael about, 3 years ago at EBMS. So that's a challenging situation and it just, you guys have done a great job. Are you guys, any of you seeing, or what are you seeing in terms of new student enrollment, like families new to the district? Is that a thing or is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think at Prickly Pear we had 32, 33. I mean, obviously we had some kiddos move away too, but we had a big influx.
Yeah.
And I have the same number. I just counted it up about 10 minutes ago. 33 new kids to the district.
The math doesn't seem to make much sense to me because we've increased by about 20 students from last year, but we've got 60 more seniors. No, sorry, 40 more seniors, and then it looks like I don't quite understand. But what I do know is that we've got another 20 students. Okay, and our senior class that graduated last year was 100, and now we've got 140 seniors this year. Okay, and now we've got 60 freshmen coming. So we got a lot of movement. There's a lot of people coming in and out. But overall, we're still increasing.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Even with that many kids though, watching the kids move through the hallways, lunch, all of that, it's not a complete chaos, but
Right.
it is definitely something that's manageable. I think kids just know the expectation will walk in the hallways and they just go. I think it's fun.
I'm nervous for the high school for next year, with that big 8th grade class.
I was gonna say.
Like, you guys are gonna have relief, but then the
All
high
of our
school.
new kids are seem to be 8th
Yeah.
graders.
Oh.
Kemper and I are like, no more 8th
We're
graders.
sitting at 174 8th graders right now.
Yeah.
What is it, 174?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
gonna lose 140 seniors.
Plus 30.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that next year.
Good attitude.
Yeah, and Brian and I were talking about that last year, that next year the high school's probably gonna peak, and then it might actually start coming down a little bit, but it's gonna pressure this facility to see what it can manage and handle.
Well, I noticed out of all the principals, the only one who didn't say it started off great was Lindsay, and I think she's making sure that she didn't jinx herself.
Well, I said it went smooth, and then I was like, finding one. We've had the bumpiest ride recently.
Well, then she shut down that hallway.
Yeah.
That's all I hear about.
Is there a student protest coming on that?
No.
No, they didn't complain about phones, but they complained about that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, no phone complaints, but that hallway, that hit hard.
My daughter
I'm
has a
serious.
locker on the art side, so that's what.
Oh,
kills
I mean, it's
her.
unbelievable. It's
Michael,
impossible.
make sure you erase his daughter's name from traveling to for MTSS.
That's fine.
All right, so is that it for school update? Start up?
Yep.
Cool.
That is.
All right, any questions?
Thank you all for stepping up to the plate, because like, I would not want to, I still am not even sure what the 227, I was asking those questions about 227 Academy, because like people ask me, and I was like, well, I thought it was an alternative school, but alternative could be people that need help, people that need a different, it's a wider spectrum than I had anticipated, and that's great. So thank you for stepping up and doing that.
Okay. Well, moving on, so we'll get into new business now. So first up is consideration of our natural gas contract with Commercial Energy.
Okay, I don't know if you had a chance to look at your email today. Here's a copy of the contract that was sent to us this morning. If you want to take one and pass them down. Lindsay, will you pass a few of these around? There we go. There's not enough for everybody to have one, but there's a few extra copies in there. So the document that was in your packet quoted us at 308 a decatherm. And that was printed August 19th. Those price quotes, when we get them, are good for 48 hours. So, you know, our agreement was that he would send me an updated price quote today. In my conversation with Tim, who's our rep at Commercial Energy, and first of all, 308 a decatherm was a decrease from our current rate, which is 357. So it's about, I think I calculated that at 14%. I hope I'm right, but it's a decrease in the cost of our natural gas. It doesn't mean our whole power bill is going down 14% because we use a lot of electricity and we pay a delivery fee to Northwestern Energy for the natural gas that we buy from Commercial Energy. But it is a savings. And then when I talked with Tim at Commercial Energy, I did tell him, and I didn't know how he would respond to this because it basically is a competition thing, but I did tell him that we were interested in at least having the opportunity to jump on the state of Montana contract. So the state of Montana, what is it called? General Services or Department of Administration purchases natural gas on contract for most of the state buildings. And so they're doing huge volume buying. And in the past, there have been times when their rate was significantly less than what we were paying. And so we were always wanting to have the opportunity to look at jumping on the state contract or going our own way with another provider. And part of the hangup was that our Commercial Energy contract was running from October 1st to September 30th. So when he pitched me the new price today, he actually adjusted it so it would be a 9-month agreement and it would end June 30th, 2025, which is when the state contract ends. And then we'll have a clean break there next spring so we can start talking to the state, saying, what are you getting? Because they bid at a few different companies. And he said commercial energy is going to be really aggressive to get the state contract back next year. So this is really, in my opinion, the best option that we could have gone, and the price dropped again from 308 to 303. Partly probably because maybe the commodities market went down a little bit, but also because it's a shorter period, so they're willing to give us a little better pricing on that. So what I'm looking for tonight is an approval of this 9-month agreement at the energy safe fixed price of 303 a decatherm, and kind of open for questions or conversations about that too.
The idea being that this, for those who weren't, because I actually astonished me to remember this, basically this is a stopgap to get us on cycle so that then we can negotiate perhaps a better rate.
Yeah, and I didn't know if we were going to be able to pull that off, and that's just the way.
Because we flogged Miss Horsley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
really
it's
badly.
in my opinion, it's a win-win for us.
Do you need a motion?
I
Or
would.
do you want discussion first?
Unless we want further discussion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize Dan to get the energy safe fixed price of 303 a decatherm.
For 9 months?
For 9 months, through June 30th, yep.
Okay, and Tristan seconded. Okay. All right, so if, any further discussion from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, so all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There you go, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Really good.
It was a long discussion last time.
Yeah, it was. This was much less painful.
Okay, moving on. So next up is the summer school report.
Yeah, so for at least the last 20 years, we've offered some form of summer school here in East Helena. It started actually back in around 2002 or 3 as a requirement under the No Child Left Behind Act, if you remember that. The program's really grown and developed and into something that I think is the envy of a lot of districts around the state. And with the addition of the high school, we've added additional layers of summer school for kids in grades, well, especially high school grades, but it's really enhanced our middle school summer school offering to having that high school component. And the neat part about high school summer school is it's there for what you would think of traditional summer school being for kids who may not have been successful in a class the prior year to come back and get that credit. But we also have a couple different opportunities in the high school for kids to work ahead and earn credit in a class for the next year to open up time in their schedule for other things that they want to do. So our summer school administrators last summer were Gus and Lindsay. Gus handled the Summer Pals K-5 program and Lindsay handled the upper grades. And I just asked them to report back to the board. We do this every year in September about how the program went and some of the successes and challenges that were dealt with. So Gus, if you want us to go first, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll start us off. So we were lucky again to have a lot of the same staff. We only had one new staff member, which just makes familiarity and the flow of things, getting things kicked off and just understanding the program, really, it makes it for a smooth transition into our program. So with that, I think we added a couple things that were beneficial to the kids, but we kept a lot of the same things because we know that they work. We had 129 students enrolled, which is higher than previous years, but we did average about 15 absences a day, if not more, sometimes because of summer camps, church camps, all those things. Our high school sports teams, they often hold camps now this summer where a lot of our kids are participating in it, but it actually ends up being a pretty good system where our kids just walk down from Prickly Pear to the high school, do their sports camp, and then finish out the day at Prickly Pear. It's a good system that we have there. With that, We continued swim lessons this year. Every student participated in swim lessons weekly, and then we had a fun swim on the last day of school. We implemented, starting last year, STEM Tuesdays, where a couple teachers would be the primary leaders in doing a STEM challenge on the afternoons every Tuesday afternoon. We also incorporated a family engagement in coordination with those STEM Tuesdays, which was pretty cool. We purchased these bridge kits, and students were tasked to create a bridge with their parent if they so chose to participate, which could hold the most weight. And it was really fun because we had, I believe, in attendance that day, we had 94 students in attendance that day and 46 parents participated. Took the afternoon off to spend time with their child, which was really neat. With that, we had weekly field trips. We went to Grant Coors Ranch, which is my personal favorite when I was actually teaching the Summer Pals program. It's just a real cool historical site in Montana, really neat for them to kind of see what the Wild Wild West was back in the day when people were settling and ranching. From there, we went to the Montana Wild, where students were able to participate in a variety of things, and capped off with some fishing in Spring Meadow Lake, which is really neat. We went to the Lincoln Sculpture Museum. We went bowling, and then we had just the last day fun day at JFK Park in the free swim. And then just to finish this off, we do have a data component to it. We obviously do a lot of fun things, but the purpose there is to prevent that summer slide, as well as make sure that our students are being purposeful with it and progressing. And so out of all of our students, 71% of our students grew from their spring testing scores. And then in English Language Arts, 82% of our students maintained or grew at the end of the summer. So in my mind, we'd love to see 100%, but I still think those are pretty strong numbers. Any questions?
I would just add that we integrated the Jumpstart Early Literacy Program into the Summer Pals program rather than creating a separate standalone program. And that took a lot of coordination. And there were some additional requirements from the state with the new legislation that we had to comply with. And we'll have to be a little bit mindful of that in our planning for next summer. Just making sure we're following their rules. But what we're supposed to be benefiting from with that is a small amount of additional A and B funding for those students who participated, who qualified for Jumpstart. So that means they're in grades, help me out, K through
Going
three. Going into K through 3, and then have an academic need that qualifies them for Jumpstart. We're supposed to get an additional 0.25 A and B payment, which moving forward will help to defray the cost of summer school, which has kind of been an ongoing concern because we've paid for it a lot of different ways. We've had a few different grants over the last several years, and for the last 4 years, it's been mostly ARP ESSER money that has underwritten our summer school program. So it worked out really good that as the COVID relief money was going away, the legislature passed the early literacy law and created this new avenue for us to provide those services, at least to the K-3 kids, and get some funding for it. So, yeah, but we don't see that money, of course, till next year.
We had 56 of those kids qualify that were in our summer program. So
awesome. Thanks, Gus. Other questions for Gus?
Is there some expense? Is there tuition that parents pay?
So we have charged tuition in the past. We did not charge tuition this summer of any student or of any K through 3 student?
Of any student who was free and reduced lunch, we did charge tuition for.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that'll be a question moving forward as to what the legalities of that are. So, and we've had some issues with, in the past, 21st Century has paid that 21st Century grant, which is a federal grant. We've used some of that money for summer school, and that's how we got our Tiger program started. And then the 21st Century came out and said, well, you can't charge anybody money if they're participating in this program. And then they cut our funding, so then we didn't have money for summer school, so we still charged for it. But moving forward with the Jump Start program, just like we can't charge for public school, if the state's funding the K through 3 early literacy kids, then we won't be able to charge for that moving forward. I'm 100% confident that they're going to tell us that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then we've always waived the fee for 3 lunch kids or charged half price for kids. So it's a sliding scale. All right, Lindsay was going to chat a little bit about the 6th through 11th grade option.
So the high school, we had 46 kids enrolled, and so those 46 kids might take multiple courses in a day. And then we had 24 middle schoolers. After, they realized it was summer school, we had about 18 kids not decide that it was going to be hard for them to come, but I called a lot because I was also the secretary, so I called a lot and they came and passed. And then we had 38 students who did transformational learning, meaning that they took courses that they would be coming up in the upcoming years, so like English 4, we had a weights class and PE class, so we did get a lot of kids moving forward with that. It was a great time. It was definitely different from last year when I got to go play with the kids to the kids who came in and didn't want to be here, but I still love those kids.
All right, so that's our summer school report.
Any questions? Okay, moving on. Next up is consideration of our RBHI MOU for suicide prevention screening.
All right, so this is probably the 4th time this has been in front of the board. RBHI is Rural Behavioral Health Institute. They're kind of a pioneering organization in youth mental health supports in Montana. They're based out of Livingston. And we're just asking the board to approve renewing this memorandum of understanding, which forms our partnership with them to be able to use their suicide prevention screener with our students. And it's I'll just give you a little bit of a reminder update. They use an online screening tool that is a combination of several different screening tools that are respected in the medical realm for being quality mental health screeners. But they've taken those old pencil and paper checklists, basically is what they were, and turned them into an online questionnaire where the students answer questions. And then if a student answers the questionnaire in such a way that they're deemed to be possibly at risk for suicidality or suicidal intentions, the counselors get an alert so that they can connect with that student and connect with their parents and try to get them the help that they need in one form or another. And so we're just wanting to continue that partnership and that relationship. It doesn't cost us anything at this point, and like most things technology-based, at some point I'm sure there's going to be a price tag. But for now, it's a great tool for us. And when I checked with the high school counselors to see if they wanted to continue this relationship and this practice of using the screener, they were absolutely supportive of it. So I'm asking for the board's support tonight.
Can we entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to use the rural behavioral health screening.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Martin and a second from Mark. Is there any discussion? I got one question for you. How is the participation done with the opt-in versus opt-out?
Well, it was down a little bit last year. We don't have anybody who was at the high school last year when, I know our numbers were down. There's also some, in what we discussed a few weeks ago in admin, is a need for us to do a little bit more education of ourselves about that law. So we may have overreacted when that came out, because the opt-in versus opt-out really kicks in when a survey is gathering personally identifiable information about a child. So certain surveys that we did opt-in based, like the YRBS, does not gather any information about you. This one does, because we use we don't use student ID numbers, they encode them they encrypt them so that nobody can recognize them. But somewhere somebody is getting that information, so this one's a little bit hazy for me, so we're gonna research that a little bit more. But definitely numbers were down, but one of the things on this particular topic, I think you've got parents in the community who are pretty solidly invested in keeping kids safe. And what I've seen, I guess, in my own experience as a building administrator is that when parents are opting their kids out of a screener like this, it's usually because they already know what's going on with their child. So like they've maybe been down this road before already, and they don't want their kid to have to answer these questions again. So that's kind of been my experience, so I'm not as concerned with this particular tool that we're missing a lot of things. But yeah, it's a good question.
All right, well, is there any questions from the public? All right, well, we have a motion, so at this time, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And the final thing on our agenda is the charter school contract update.
So this is an information item. What happened here is the Board of Public Ed, so the East Helens School Board approved the charter school contract earlier this year. I believe it was in March. And the Board of Public Ed made an adjustment to the contract and reissued them at the end of July for school boards to consider. And then the superintendent went on vacation, and it didn't make it on the August board agenda, and it needed to be signed by the end of August. And since the changes were mostly procedural and in our favor, Scott went ahead and signed it, and so we could send it back, but asked me to just put it on the agenda so that the board knew what was going on. What the changes are is, and you can see them in McCall's email, is they are adjusting the reporting requirements. So under financial operations, they had a reporting requirement to be in accordance with GAAP accounting, which after they looked at it, they felt like that was overbearing and overreach, so they took that language out. And they are indicating, they put in here that the last line there says the Board of Public Ed may reduce the frequency of financial reports after the first year of operation. So what they're telling us verbally is that in this first year, the business office is going to have to submit quarterly reports about our expenditures in the charter school. But after this year, they'll probably dial that back to once a year, like every other school financial reporting that reports to OPI. And the same thing with the monitoring plan. They are making an adjustment there as well. And similarly, the original language said quarterly, and they're telling us to be prepared to report quarterly this first year, but the charter schools who open this year and continue next year will probably have less reporting required, because to be honest with you, quarterly reporting is a lot more than we've ever had to do with any of our other schools. So I think they got a little pushback on that from some of the schools, and also just realized that when they wrote the charter contracts, McCall was pretty transparent about it. She said, look, we just took some charter contracts that we got from some other states and made those our contracts, so they wouldn't want to make these changes. So it's really just an information item at this point, not an action item.
Okay. Are there any questions on the?
Yeah, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that the legislature will be in session during those, well,
those reporting periods?
After the second quarter, and then they could actually be updated on the third quarterly report, and
Yeah, I mean, I think the legislative interim committee, in addition to the legislature, is going to be looking to the Board of Public Ed to be giving them information about the types of schools that are being established, the innovation that's going on, the number of students that are being impacted, and the overall cost. You know, when the charter school law passed, my understanding was that the legislature and the Board of Public Ed were expecting somewhere around 5 to 15 charter schools, and I think we're nearly double that now. I think we're 27. So they got way more applications than they expected. And it'll be interesting to see how the legislature reacts to that. If they may decide, well, we just want to stay the course. They may say, oh, well, this is going great, so let's juice it up a little bit and invite more applications. Or they might say, well, this is costing us way more money than we thought it was going to cost, so we're going to pull back on the reins here a little bit. And I'll be interested to see how this conversation go, Mark, because it could be interesting when you bring the entire legislature together representing the whole state of Montana, because most of the charter schools are represented mostly in what we would call the urban areas, so Great Falls, Bozeman, Helena, East Helena, Kalispell. So if you're living in Broadus, you're not really benefiting from the charter school.
Well,
Your taxes are still going to pay for it.
An alum from this school district got elected to the legislature in May. And his mother was married to an uncle, so he's a cousin of mine.
All right.
And he called me up and said, what are the school issues that he's never been in? And so I'm just, kind of gathering information. There's some stuff that he may run into. And
You're like a high-powered lobbyist now.
yeah,
Conduit.
that's what I am.
A conduit for.
Awesome, okay. Oh, cool, thanks for asking. That's all we got.
Any questions from the public? Questions from the board? All right, well, that concludes this evening's meeting. That's the agenda, so thank you very much. The next meeting is October 14th at East Valley Middle School.
If you please. I gotta go.
Yeah.